Back to matters dealing with education now, and pupils without schools is a problem every single January. And many parents complain that their children aren't placed in schools of their choice. This year, it's been no different, with hundreds of people waiting for places in Gauteng schools. Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi has pleaded with parents to be patient as the matter is being sorted out. For more on this discussion, I'm joined by Tshegofatso Phala from the Equal Education Law Centre. Many thanks for your time this morning, Tshegofatso. You and I spoke earlier in the week about this issue, and you had indicated then that it's probably not hundreds of school children, it's probably in the thousands that have been left displaced, I suppose we could use that word, as the school year begins. Where are we now at the end of the week? Panyaza Lesufi, as I've mentioned in my intro, saying it's going to take some time to place the children.
Morning, thanks. Yeah, I agree with the MEC. It is going to take some time, and I still think it's still early days to really try and track and project whether or not the placement has moved fast and how many learners are still unplaced. When I spoke to you earlier in the week, I said the department's been telling us about hundreds, so telling us that there's now about 400 learners who are unplaced. But I said we had to look at those numbers more deeply, because that number of 400 is parents who applied online, complied with all the requirements, but have still not been given a school. The department has told us, though, at the beginning of last week that there were about 17,000 parents who had applied last year and there were problems with their application. Either they failed to upload a document to the system, or they failed to take a specific form to the school. And so we haven't received numbers yet from the department on where they currently are with that number of 17,000. And that 17,000 also doesn't take account for thousands of parents who don't know about the online system. And we know from our walk-in clinic at the Equal Education Law Centre that there's thousands of parents who don't have access to the internet, who don't understand that they're supposed to be doing online applications. And so those parents will also not be captured in the amount of numbers of learners who we are saying are unplaced. And so I think it's still early days, and I think there's still reason for concern, because I still think that it's not hundreds of learners who are out of school and who didn't start school on the 12th amongst their peers. I think that it's thousands.
Yeah. Do the current issues, Tshegofatso, warrant the scrapping of the current online system, or perhaps finding a way in which everybody can access and apply and submit whatever documents that they need to, and really just not be left in the situation that's currently unfolding?
I think it's not a matter of scrapping the system. I think we need to embrace technology and accept that technology does bring some benefits, administratively, and does open up access for others. But the reality is technology is not accessible to all parents in South Africa. And so there's a need for us, we think, for a hybrid system and an equal hybrid system. So one that doesn't preference those parents who have applied online over others, but there must be leeways and avenues for parents to be able to apply at schools, for parents to be able to go to district offices and be assisted in applying, because it's very clear that the online system is currently leaving a certain group of learners and parents out. And sadly, it's usually those parents who are disadvantaged, working class parents, and parents from more previously disadvantaged areas.
And of course, it's not just the issue of the online system and people being able to access it, Tshegofatso. One of the things that's been echoed over the last week by various officials in the Department of Health is this one, not health, pardon me, education, is this issue of capacity, and that many of the schools, even in the city, are just full to capacity.
Yes, overcrowding remains a huge issue, particularly in Gauteng. We've got some schools in Alexandra and Tembisa where you've got 100 pupils in a class, so a teacher is expected to teach 100 pupils. And the reality is, for many of the schools where parents are seeking admission, those schools are already full to capacity. Some of them have already surpassed their numbers. And so the reality is there's a need for more schools. There's a need for an increase in the infrastructure budget in order to be able to build more schools. One commends Gauteng, which have said to us that they've set aside 240 million for extra classes, but the reality is that's only going to build about 400 classes. And so there's a real need for Treasury to be increasing the infrastructure budget, and that's one of the only ways that I'm not going to be sitting here year in and year out talking to this issue.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm glad you bring that up in terms of how do we prevent this from continually happening. Perhaps next year we'd like to see something different. We'd like to see that all those who are going to school get to school on time instead of what we're seeing now. Are there any long-term solutions apart from the infrastructure that you've just spoken about that we should consider?
I think it's the online system, which you and I have spoken about. So opening up access for all parents. I think it's creating more centers where parents can go get assistance. So where a parent doesn't know how to apply, when a parent doesn't know what to do, that a parent can simply walk into those centers and get assistance. But we've also seen that there's a disconnect between what the provinces are doing and between schools, and there's a need for them to be speaking better and for us to have better administrative systems. And so I think those are the kind of things that need to start happening. The reasons which get cited year in and year out are the same. And so it's about identifying long-term solutions for those reasons. They're not new reasons.